Welcome to ACFIMTalks, yet another episode. Today, the Friday, 8th of July, 2022. My name is Felix, the host for today's episode of ACFIMTalks. And today we discuss nothing other than Uganda's middle income status. Are we there or not? You know very well that the debate has been raging on whether we are in a middle income country or not, given the fact that World Bank came out briefly and was able to dispute the earlier communication by the president. But we shall be getting into that very shortly. But before we start, let me first encourage everybody to be part of this discussion by joining us on our social media platforms. We are live on Facebook, ACFIM on also on our YouTube. You like our YouTube page and you'll be able to get the notifications. Also, we are live on Twitter at ACFIM and also we are live on LinkedIn. You can catch us there every Friday, same time. We also run other similar programs on every Wednesday and also on every Thursday. We have similar programs that run on that discuss nothing other than money in politics, including topical issues that concern me and you. Before we start, let me lay some bit of a foundation on today's discussion and why I think it is important that we do justice to it and understand and appreciate whether, as a country, we are a middle income status. You remember very well that I think it was on 1st July, the World Bank released a report that was disputing the statement by the president, President Museveni, and by extension, the Ugandan National Bureau of Statistics, UBOS, that Uganda has already attained a middle income status. And according to the World Bank, Uganda's gross national income, GNI, per person stood at about $840 in the financial year of 2021, increasing marginally in the year, thus leaving the country well below the lower middle income threshold of $1,045 per person. The gap that Uganda has to cover to reach middle income status is $205. However, the World Bank is using a different yardstick to measure the gross national income, yet the president Museveni and UBOS are using a yardstick called the gross domestic product yardstick. And according to the president and UBOS, the gross domestic product per person stands at $1,046, which is about 3,945 Uganda shillings, and this makes Uganda above by $1. So we are having two contradicting, all contrasting measurements by World Bank and the one by Museveni and UBOS. And the contradictions between World Bank and the government of Uganda on the middle income status have since sparked an online debate, and among them have been civil society activists who have argued that it appears that when Museveni and his government were planning to go into middle income status, they did not notify the citizens. Thus, the citizens remained behind. This is because the overall argument is that citizens don't feel that they are in middle income status yet. Today, we want to weigh in on this issue. And in today's episode, I'm joined by two economists. They are both regular on ACFIMTalks. I've had them here before, again, discussing economics, but from a different perspective. Let me start by introducing Moses Mulondo, who is the president for Uganda Parliamentary Press Association, UPPA. He's also an economist, has a master's in business administration. He's also a qualified journalist with a degree in mass communication. He's a New Vision leading senior staff writer on the national budget and a commentator on the national budget and the economy. He's also a coordinator of the Greater World Development Forum. I'm most welcome, Moses Mulondo.
Thank you, my brother, Felix Kafuma.
Okay, it's good to have you. Then also I have with me Moses Mushime, who is a lawyer and an economist with over 15 years of experience in public policy design, global health leadership, and civic management. He also holds a master's in economic policy management and also a bachelor's of law He's a certified country trainer on universal healthcare and health financing, and is currently the executive director of Open Health Network and a partner with Chibuka Rashid and Company Advocates. You are most welcome, Moses Mushimi.
Thank you, Felix.
Okay, it's good to have you, both of you here today. And again, like I said, my name is Felix Kafuma, who is the host for today's discussion. And let's get this off the ground. And I'll start. Let me start with you, Moses Mushime. Let's start by understanding these two economic terminologies that seem to be the point of departure against which World Bank contradicts you boss and the president. There are two words here. There is the gross national income and the gross domestic product. Can you break this down for an ordinary Ugandan? What do these terms mean when we are discussing, especially when we are discussing our middle income status?
Thank you, Felix. Well, these are two methods of measuring economic growth. And one, which is gross domestic product, looks at the aggregate of the production of goods and services within an economy. Whereas the national gross product or national growth income looks at the aggregate production of goods and services by nationals of that economy. Now, in the context of Uganda, where you see most of the businesses, huge businesses, we talk about manufacturing, we talk about telecom sector, where you see foreign nationals, including foreign companies, you will realize that apart from maybe the fact that we also get what I would say aid and donations from outside countries, when you compare these two methods, there is always a difference, except for some countries where their nationals also have a huge investment abroad. Then the difference may not be statistically significant. But in the context of Uganda, there is a difference between these two measures of economic growth. And the World Bank has always insisted on using the gross national product or gross national income, because for it is adjusted by inflation and the exchange rate over a 3-year period. But in the context of what the president and the Uganda Bureau of Statistics have been talking about, they have insisted that we have crossed into the middle income using the gross domestic product, which has never been a measure of middle income status. So that's where the difference is.
Wow, interesting. Someone was joking that looks like Uganda set their own question and they answered it. So let me come to you, Moses. Probably may want to weigh in on that one, on the terminologies, but also because now it's clear the difference between gross national income and gross domestic product. The World Bank relies on the GNI, which is the gross national income. If we are to go by that, I may also want to ask and understand what explains, for example, what does it take? Let me put it this way: what does it take for a country to be declared middle income, and how does middle income feel like test? How will I be able to tell that I'm in a middle income country?
Thank you very much. First of all, for a country to attain a lower middle income status, it must have obtained a minimum per capita income of $1,036, which actually, in simple terms, means that on average, every citizen of that country is able to earn about 3.7 millions every year, because you just get the GDP of the country and divide it by the population. The explanations of the two terminologies have been well put by Mishime. What I want to add on is that there is a very big challenge that we have with our statistics as a country. And I am actually one of those who were shocked when the president announced that we had reached a middle income status, because I have been keenly following statistics concerning our economy. I can give you an example. Between for about 10 years, between NDP1 and NDP2, our per capita income was oscillating between $600 and $750 in about 10 years. So it was a very big shock for me when the president announced that our per capita income had reached 1,046, when we had, moreover, just come out of 2 years of lockdown, when the economy was in the lockdown. So you can imagine for about 10 years, NDP1 and NDP2, our per capita income was between 600 and 750, in between there, which means it was increasing at a very slow rate. So you would wonder how, within just a year, because the previous figures we had been given of our per capita income before the president came to announce was about 850. So you would wonder how a country that had been, actually in the world, Uganda had the longest lockdown. You know, our education sector was in the longest lockdown. So for about 2 years, a number of reports indicated that many companies had lost revenue, many companies had scaled out on production. So there is no way for a country that had been greatly hit by COVID-19, for an economy that was almost in a recession, that had just come out of a lockdown, to have jumped all of a sudden into middle income status. I want also to give you a contrast that will show you that we still have a very long way to go. In 2019, about 3 years ago, October, around there, our debt to GDP ratio was actually approaching 50%, the red mark. And the government came out and told us we have rebased our economy. So when they rebased our economy, by that time our economy was $29 billion. So when they rebased our economy, it jumped to $32 billion. And in rebasing the economy, they explained that they had included economic activities like oil and gold, which were previously not included in our GDP. But you all know that, like, when it comes to gold, the bulk of our gold exports actually were not even from Uganda. They were from DRC and Tanzania. In fact, for the last 9 months, our gold exports have not even been appearing on the list of our exports. When a tax was imposed, we had that those who were smuggling gold through Uganda, they stopped doing so, and they are now smuggling it through Rwanda and other countries. So you again, at that time when they rebased the economy, many economists termed it as economic engineering, because we were approaching a red mark of a debt to GDP ratio of 50%, and when they rebased the economy, actually our debt to GDP ratio went down to 33%. And many people think that the motivation for rebasing the economy was for government actually to continue borrowing, because they had a number of projects they had lined up in the pipeline. I remember there is a time when we were in Parliament and there was a conference in the conference hall, and the Minister for Water and the Environment said that our access to clean water had reached 75%. And the Speaker of Parliament then, Rebecca Kadaga, stood up and protested it. She said, this is a fake figure, and she said, I am warning you to stop giving us fake statistics, because for me, I move around the country in Busoga and all parts of the country. majority of our people do not have access to clean water. So how can you tell us that our access to clean water has reached 75%? So we have a very big challenge when it comes to figures. But even if we take the assumption that we have reached a per capita income of 1,046, as the president says, again, many economists, and it's a reality, are saying this is not a reflection of improvement in the welfare of the citizens. You all know that whereas in NDP2, government's target was to reduce the rate of poverty from 19% to 15%. At the end of NDP2, the poverty rate actually had increased to 21.5%. In the recent statistics, when we were in COVID, we were told the situation worsened and our poverty rate reached 28%. So it's a very big contradiction when you are saying and the other thing I want again when we are talking about statistics, when they rebased the economy in 2019, 3 years ago, shortly before we entered COVID, they put our GDP at 32%, at $32 billion. Now, when the president was announcing middle income status, he said our economy is now at $45 billion. Really? In such a short period of time, would you imagine, especially when we are in a lockdown, that our economy had jumped from $32 billion to $45 billion? So I remember when Ubos came to parliament, they wanted to explain the parish government model. They had made some survey which they were using for the PDM project. The MPs on the budget committee, and many of them are economists, many of them are finance experts, they disputed the figures that we are given. Because UBOS came and told us that the number of Ugandans who are in subsistence are now 39%. Yet all along, in all the previous years, even in the speeches of the president, we were being told that over 65% of Ugandans are in subsistence farming. So again, you see, and I have seen, I remember in that meeting, the UBOS people and the Minister of Finance who had come with them, they were chased away from the committee because the MPs didn't believe the statistics which were given. So this is a debate that we need to have. I think as a country, we need to have a holistic debate on our statistics and the reality of our economies. When you look at our economy, even if we take the assumption that it has reached $45 billion and that we have a per capita income of 1,046. When you look at the 10 countries in Africa that had already attained that status, I can give you an example of Seychelles, which has a per capita income of $30,000. 30,000. For us, we are talking about only 1,000, slightly above 1,000. Mauritius per capita income is $23,000. Equatorial Guinea is $18,000. Botswana is over $18,000. Libya is over $15,000. Gabon is over $15,000. South Africa is $13,000. Nigeria is $11,000. Tunisia is $11,000. But mark you, in our vision 2040, for us, our target as a country, which actually shows that we are really jokers, our target and 2040 is about 18 years away. Our target is to reach a per capita income of 9,500. But all these countries, the 10 countries I have read for you, they have already exceeded that. But for us, our target is to reach per capita income of 9,500 in 2040. So it really shows. I don't know who the people who really make these plans, and we never have discourses to counter and debate these targets and figures that our government comes up with. But for you to set a target of achieving per capita income of 9,000 in 2040, when so many African countries have actually already gone past that, it shows you that we really have a very serious problem as a country with our policy makers and our planners.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. You are painting a picture. Let me bring in here, Kanso Mushime. You've had Molondo making a case, looking at the statistics provided, and let me bring in here, paint us a picture, because even me, when the president announced that we are middle income status, I struggled to relate with the figures he was giving. And I remember at some point the president promised that by 2020, every Ugandan will be earning 3.5 million annually. Of course, he was targeting the middle income status. But now, fast forward, the country is already busy in the thick and thin of the action around parish development model. We are seeing government trying to give grants to citizens to come out of poverty. A bit contradicting. You can't be a middle income country and you're still trying to get, you are still trying to give, to package poverty alleviation programs to the majority of the citizens. But for starters, who is supposed to declare a country's middle income? Is it a preserve of World Bank to declare a country's middle income? Can't we define our own indicators as a country, like the president tried to use the GDP measurement yardstick? And also, another question related to that, what does it feel? If Uganda is to be a middle income country, what should be done?
Thank you, Felix. One, I think Mr. Molondo has elaborated well on the aspects that touches actually integrity of the data. UBOS, it is very unfortunate that UBOS is disagreeing with the World Bank, yet World Bank has been instrumental in shaping UBOS in terms of capacity building. And maybe one would wonder, before I delve into the questions you're asking, what is the motivation behind this hula barrow and the pronouncement of Uganda crossing into the middle income? One is to demonstrate maybe to the population that the government, the existing government is working, but the other one would be to demonstrate to lenders, including World Bank and IMF, that actually the economy has grown. Now you can give us a substantial amount of loans, because World Bank and IMF provide loans to economies based on their capacity in terms of absorbing, so that these loans do not distort the economy. So those could be, but if the intention is to achieve both objectives, one is going to fail, because World Bank has already disagreed. Now, the World Bank is a reputable organization and has provided a method that has worked for over years. That is the Atlas method of using the GNI to measure the status, the income status of a country. And this GNI is adjusted for 3 years to cater for fluctuations in interest rates, rather in exchange rates and prices. Now, here is the country that is pronouncing that has crossed into the middle income status when exchange rates have shoot up and prices have shoot up. So if we are to adjust, then we would actually go below what the UBOS is giving us. So we wonder why, for example, at such a material time, like Moses said, where we know that during COVID we lost over 3 million jobs, these people are not accounted for. We do not know how many have returned to these jobs. A lot of livelihoods were lost. And then you are coming us to give us this figure. Just January this year, the president, while in Korol, said that we had failed to hit the target. And this target was in the National Development Plan 2, which expired, I think, in 2020. Now, for a country, we've come to a realization that these methods actually do not reflect the realities on ground. I can tell you, and this one, Mr. Mlondo knows, that poverty is now on the rise. If you compare the figures in 2016-17 and now, in 2016-17, we're around 19.6%. Now we are, as per the figures released by UBOS in last year, based on the surveys done in financial year 2019-2020, we are at 20.3%. Now, based on the method, that means around 8.5 million Ugandans live below $1 per day. But if you took what other countries have taken to be the basis of the poverty line, which is about $1.7, we could actually have over 40% of Ugandans living below the poverty line. Now, as a country, the National Planning Authority has been deliberate on this. We've realized that these methods do not reflect the realities on the ground, because there are many things that take place in rural areas that are not captured in these statistics. Talk about people in subsistence sector. There are people who do not touch money. There are people who go to the garden, dig their cassava and eat. These statistics that are based on traded national or international traded goods will not capture such kind of economic activities taking place. Now, we set out to say, let's look at other indicators. These include the poverty levels, these include life expectancy, include maternal mortality, access to water, access to electricity, as well as other issues around access to social services. Now, when you look at what National Planning Authority had set out, as we speak now, we had set out, for example, access to electricity to move from around 16% to 30%. Now we are still at 24%. Access to water, Moses talked about it. We had set out to be maybe at 80% of households accessing clean water. Now we are still at 70%. When you talk about poverty, we had said to be around 14%, so that we can say now we are entering into the middle income. We are still at 20.3%. Now, the biggest challenge is the model that the government has used to engineer economic growth, where they have invested a lot in infrastructure without investing in social protection and social services that poor people depend on. And what we've seen is a rising income inequality as well as poverty levels. We know the whole battle around the parish development model, but I can tell you, for this parish development model to work, it needs a substantial amount of resources, which the country does not have, and it needs to have technical and human resource capacity in place, which the country does not have. We still have parishes that do not have health center tools. We have parishes that do not have primary schools, and therefore we need that infrastructure in the first place to be able to propel the population into the middle income status. And what we need is a model of economic growth that tries to get these people out of poverty, and we close this income inequality. And that means, for example, putting in place means that we'll make sure that every productive citizen has income in their pockets, which the parish development model is not doing, because they are telling us we've provided 1 trillion to support the parish development model, and we know that we have over about 10,000 parishes in the country. But I can tell you, these parishes differ in terms of demographics, they differ in terms of population. A parish in Kampala or Wakiso has a population that is 10 times a parish in rural Uganda. So you cannot say, for example, we are going to provide 100 million in Kampala and 100 million in a district in a rural area. And even this money we are talking about, it is not in one basket. It's an aggregation of different ministries: agriculture, water, energy, and they are just imagining that all these ministries will invest in the model, which is not the case. This money should be somewhere at a district. This money would be in a certain unit, but it is not the case. So we are very worried, and poverty will continue rising. That is, we are seeing it. Inequality is going to continue rising. The government is indifferent about rising prices. We've seen Bank of Uganda taking hazard methods to control inflation, which is actually not their job, because now this is supply driven. They have failed to arrest these inflation rates that are rising. Exchange rates are rising because our export income is on decline. So we need to rethink about all this model of economic growth that the country is yet to implement. Over to you, Felix. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Council Mushime. We are going to go for a break, and when we come back, we will look at these statistics again and ask ourselves realistically what should be done instead of cooking up these statistics. What should be done to actually get this country into a middle income status? Let's go for a break, and then we shall return.
Welcome, my people. A cup of coffee, please. There is tea, everything. The snacks are on the way.
Yeah, thanks, but the reason that's why we are here, our people need improve different services. We at least need an ambulance at every center.
My sub-county is the forest. We used to depend on the former MPs. But when he lost his elections, he took away his pay.
Of course.
So what does that mean?
Use your budget as a district to procure the ambulances.
If I could, I would. But unfortunately, government operates differently.
What are you saying, Chairperson? This is very serious and urgent.
Yes. I know. And why are they called local leaders then?
Local government.
You people, who sent you here?
I know, of course. We are concerned citizens who are watching people dying every day.
We've lost our beloved ones just because of poor health services.
Something has to be done.
You are right. Something has to be done, and very fast.
Yes.
That's transport for you. Go back.
But
All your concerns are taken care of. I will handle.
But
Have a
Chairman,
safe journey.
Thank you so much.
but this money seems to undermine our cause as to why we're here.
No, don't misunderstand me. This is just transport, no strings attached.
Chairman, we came here to discuss and find solution to our problems. But it seems you don't want to engage with us. Let's go and mobilize people, and you'll see how serious we are.
Good citizens, let us always hold our leaders accountable. Leadership is a service, not a privilege.
Contribute today at www.politicalfinanceafrica.org/donate.
You're still watching ACFIMTalks. Welcome back from a break. Before we went for a break, we were trying to look at the statistics presented by World Bank, disputing the government of Uganda's initial position that Uganda was into a middle income status. And with me, I have Moses Mlondo, who is an economist, and I also have Moses Mushime, who is also an economist and also a lawyer, weighing in on the matter. And let me come to you, Moses Mlondo, especially the fact that both of you tend to agree that indeed we are not yet into middle income status. I know Tanzania, I think around 2020 or 2021 was declared to be a middle income country. So is Kenya in the region. And help me understand, and for someone who is just trying to make sense of this what it means to be part of middle income status, what ideally should be done? What should government do to actually take us to middle income status, and how can we get there?
Okay, that's a very good question. But before I answer it, because even if we achieved middle income status, it would not necessarily mean that majority of the citizens have had their economic welfare improved. I can give you examples of countries that actually have achieved middle income status. You remember those figures I on the 10 African countries that have per capita income that is over 15,000.
Yes.
One of those countries is Nigeria. Nigeria is a very big economy on the African continent, second after Egypt currently. But the number of citizens in Nigeria that are below poverty line is 46%. I actually picked this from a policy paper that was recently released by the National Planning Authority. And their argument was that we should not be so much obsessed with achieving middle income status. Our focus should be on coming up with measures that can empower majority citizens. Because you see, the rate of inequality in Uganda is so high. There is a World Bank report that indicates that 70% of our economic growth is actually in Greater Kampala. Here, Kampala and the neighboring districts, 70%. I attended a meeting of Indians where it was an activity of their association where they were boasting that they are responsible, that they own 65% of Uganda's economy. That is what they say. They were boasting that, we have invested a lot in this economy, about 65% of, and when you look at the factories that are in this country, the big companies in this company, they are owned by Indians, by Chinese. So actually, World Bank is very right that our focus should not be on GDP, but the wealth of the citizens of the country. That's where, because they know World Bank knows that the bulk of our economy is not in our hands. It is in the hands of Chinese. It is in the hands of Indians. Even when you look at the construction companies, when you look at the major infrastructure projects, the companies that are given contracts are foreign companies, and they keep repatriating the money. So our focus as a country, even as we discuss the interventions that government needs to undertake to obtain middle income status, our focus as a country should be to come up with measures that would reduce income inequality. Because like I have told you, our economic growth, the president is proud about. 70% of it is here in the Greater Kampala. There are countries apart from Nigeria, which I talked about. There are many other countries like Swaziland, like South Africa, like Zambia, that have obtained middle income status with a per capita income that is over 10,000, but with a very high rate of a big number of citizens that are below poverty line. For Swaziland, citizens that are below poverty line, 63%. Zambia, 63%. So there are countries like USA that are very rich. They have a high per capita income, a high GDP. But 80% of the wealth of USA, 8% of the people of USA own 90% of their economy. The best countries are the Scandinavian countries where the income inequalities are very low. So going to the question of what we need to do to obtain middle income status, Of course, the most important thing that we need to do is to invest in the productive sectors of the economy, which our government is yet to do. The MDP3 is very clear. These sectors were prioritized, and government was supposed, the national budget is supposed to allocate more resources to those sectors of agriculture, of manufacturing, of tourism, of ICT. But when you look at our national budget, which was recently read, those sectors continue to get meager resources. So until we get our priorities right, of course, we shall not obtain a speedy economic growth that we would desire as a country. The other thing, all countries that have registered exponential growth, most of these countries, when you look at China, those Asian tigers, they have state-owned enterprises that do business, and that create jobs. When you look at the companies here that are constructing our roads, these are state-owned Chinese companies, and they are all over the world. Gaddafi, before he died, he had started using that same investing in different countries. Libyan state-owned companies. I highly believe for an economy that is an infant economy like ours, you cannot surrender it to entirely to the private sector. That is what we need to do as a country. You see, our interest rates are very high, partly because we do not have a solid state-owned commercial bank. If we had the solid commercial banks, I'm telling you, we would not be having those high interest rates. And because of that, our companies cannot compete with companies of other countries where they get credit at very low interest rates, as low as 2-3%, when our interest rates are at 18%. So as a country, our country is a very rich country, by the way. There is no any country on the African country that is naturally endowed like our country. And if we got the right leadership and made the right decisions, we would be the richest African country. But when you look at our GDP and you compare with the GDPs of the richest African countries, we still have a long way. Even neighboring Kenya, their GDP is approaching $300 billion, but our GDP is still at $45 billion, which figure is also contested. So we still have a long way to go. As a country, our comparative advantage is in agriculture. For about 43% of East Africa's arable land is in Uganda, where you can grow crops successfully. We can be a global food basket if our government seriously invests in agriculture, invests in mechanization of our agriculture, in storage facilities, in boosting agricultural production. Because when you look at the bulk of our exports, they are agricultural products. So that is an area where we would get a lot of economic mileage. But our government is not investing enough in that sector. So as I conclude, our government will need, in fact, one of the necessary interventions for reducing the income inequalities we are talking about is for the government to seriously come up with state-owned enterprises so that we get our economy from the hands of the foreigners who keep repatriating our resources. The government revived the UDC, Uganda Development Corporation, as the investment arm of government, and there was a commitment to allocate it, capitalize it with $500 billion. That was the commitment of both the executive and parliament in around 2017, 2016. But up to now, that commitment has not been fulfilled. UDC is given a very small budget of about 30 billion, with which they cannot really do so much. And yet, if UDC is capitalized, we would be having UDC establishing factories in different parts of the country, which would create jobs for the citizens in those areas and greatly improve the economic welfare of Ugandans.
Thank you so much. Council Mushima, let me bring you in here. You may weigh in on that one on what should be done, but also uh, why help us understand why at this point in time, and it's not the first time that we have statisticians from UBOS, from NPA, having statistics that are always contested. Should we then believe the very many reports that are put out to inform the country? Should we then believe that probably majority of the statistics that are put out to inform the country are highly politically motivated? Because if the president comes out with statistics informed by UBOS and then they are contested by the World Bank, but not just World Bank, but even the public within feels that these statistics are probably cooked, who should we then believe? Well, how can we run a country where the statistics that we are relying on are highly questionable? Is it an issue of politics trying to influence the economics?
Felix, it's very absurd that the UBOS is setting such a dangerous precedence. Well, statistics has statistical compilations have assumptions, and there is always room for errors and instances where you even project, instances where you assume, and that is allowed in the statistical world. But when now politics start influencing statistical compilation, that is a problem. It is going to undermine planning. It is going to undermine other projections as a country that we intend to have. And this is very dangerous if you are going to plan for population whose demographics you do not know. If you are going to put out figures to in place the head of state, that is very, very dangerous. But in the statistical world, there are assumptions that are made. There is room for errors, and that will be provided. But now crossing the Rubicon, and now you start giving statistics that are politically motivated, that is very dangerous for the country. And I think it is the time, and I can tell you, if we subjected those figures to thorough scrutiny, a lot of things would change, even overnight. And that is very, very, very dangerous. These institutions, such as World Bank, on one hand, they build capacity for these institutions, and that we should give it credit. And when you disagree, and the realities on ground are different, then even the population you purport to be working for is going to doubt you. I can tell you that we have families in Uganda that spend a month without touching money. I can tell you that we have many people who are very poor, who cannot put food on table. And I think the good thing, Mr. Mlondo is a journalist, and they have been covering UBOS. I think it's high time to now sit on a round table and make these assumptions known to the public. The assumptions that were made, for example, in trying to project Uganda as having crossed into middle income. But as a population, we have to look at other indicators of human progress or human development. And like I said, that includes sex expectancy, it includes how many women are dying giving birth, how many children die before they clock 5 years, how many people have access to water, electricity, who have skills that can enable them acquire a job. Those are the most important things, other than these statistical figures that leave a very chunk of population outside the statistics. In terms of what the government should do, one, and I think this is very fundamental, is to invest in human capital. In terms of providing the right health infrastructure and quality of care, in terms of providing education that addresses societal community needs. We are talking about vocational institutions. And I can tell me where are the vocational institutions in the parish development model? You will not see them. So let's invest in human capital. The other bit Moses touched it is investing in productive sectors of the economy. This includes agriculture. And you can see the percentage, for example, of the allocation that went to agriculture sector in the current budget. Very minimal. What percentage went to the health sector? I can tell you one of the reasons why people are falling into poverty is because they access health care and education expensively. People are selling their properties, people are selling goats, hens to pay school fees, to access medical care. And government is very adamant about these things. So let's invest in human capital. Let's invest in productive sectors of the economy. Let's reduce the inefficiencies and wastage in the government. Our friends and neighbors in Kenya have implemented what they have called devolution. Let's devolve resources to these local governments. I know there is corruption in local governments, in central government. But as citizenry, we shall do our part. But as government, let's these resources reach the people. I can tell you, and over the years, you'll see that the allocations going to local governments have been oscillating between 10 and 12% of the total budget. Before our budget was very low, we used to be in 40%. But in Kenya now, they are at 30, they are closing to 30% of the allocations going to county governments. So it is very important that we invest in productive sectors and invest in human capital. Let's our people have the skills that will provide them jobs. Let them have access to capital. That is very, 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 very important. I can tell you that in Uganda, across East Africa, actually, it is Uganda that has a costly financial system where interest rates are very high. If you don't have collateral security, you will not get a loan. Even the programs that were put in place, like in Yoga, were very politically charged, where monies went to accounts, but they could not be accessed because we're in a political season. Now all these programs have been collapsed into parish development model that does not have the right staffing, that has not prioritized regions or districts according to their the resources available, but also to their niche. What works in Kampala cannot work in Karamoja, and that is very, very, very important. The parish development model was developed at the ministry. These are models that would have come from the communities, but now it is the other way around. So I am in doubt how they are going to work. And I think economists that are in these ministries, particularly Ministry of Finance and Planning, they should try to see how to devolve resources in the first place, but also how you can customize this model to fit the realities on the ground. And most importantly, provide resources. And these resources I must either be at a local government or aggregated in a pool. That's when they will be monitored. But when you disaggregate these resources, and I think these ministries will go on the ground, that is going to be a big problem. Thank you, Felix.
Thank you so much. I still have a couple of minutes for slotting one last question for both of you as we wrap up, but you can still be part of this conversation. You can join us on our Twitter, on our Facebook, and also on our YouTube, and you can be able to probably read some of your comments. Moses Mulunga, let me come to you. You gave a very interesting statistics. You actually did say that between NDP 1 and NDP 2, I don't know what you called it, the $600 to $750. That was the
capital income.
Yeah, per capita income has been oscillating between $600 and $750. I want you to use that same projection to help, as an economist, looking at how Uganda has been performing and is progressing, how long is it going to take Uganda to actually reach the middle income status?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Actually, the earlier target for our government to achieve middle income status was 2017. Their projection was 2017, and they failed to achieve it. When they failed to achieve it, they readjusted the target to 2020, and even then they failed to achieve it. And but perhaps that's why maybe they have now resorted to economic engineering. At the current rate of growth, and when the government continues to put more resources in security, state house, public administration, if nothing changes, if there are no radical reforms, certainly even in the next 5 years, actually even World Bank said it, that Uganda is not even about to achieve middle income at our current rate of growth and prioritization. Even in the next 5 years, we cannot achieve. If we go by the current rate of growth, because like I told you, for 10 years, our per capita income was between $600 and $750. It means that every year, our per capita income, the growth of our per capita income was not even reaching $100. So there is no way, even in the next 5 years, we can reach middle income set going by the current rate. I can give you an example. Our president has been boasting about the roads that have been tarmacked, which the kilometers are about 5,000. For about 20 years, we constructed about 3,000 kilometers of roads tarmacked, and our government has been boasting about that. But within the same period of time, in Ethiopia, the number of kilometers of roads that they have tarmacked is over 30,000. So in as much as we are having some progress, we are moving at a snail's speed, at a very low speed. For us to be able to register exponential growth, we shall need some radical reforms. And sometimes it would necessitate maybe either change of government, like you saw in Tanzania when Magufuli came in and he implemented radical reforms and they reduced wastage in government, and the money they saved, actually they were able to fund their standard gauge railway on their own money. But for us here, we have been planning to construct a standard gauge railway and begging China. The last I knew, China was actually giving a condition of us attaching our oil revenue to the recovery of their money, and the government objected to it. So we are there struggling, trying to find where to get loans and construct our standard gauge railway. If we cannot have a change of government a new government to undertake those radical reforms, then it will take this government, the current government, to undertake those radical reforms, which they seem to have failed. Like when it comes to reducing wastage in government, for the last 5 years, they have been talking about downsizing government and rationalization of government and merging government entities. But they have just been talking about it, but they have failed to implement it. Even the money that they were planning to get to increase the salaries for most of the public servants who are poorly paid, their anticipation was that that money would come from what would be saved from reducing wastage in government, which they have failed to do, and that's now they are in a crisis. Arts teachers have laid down their tools because government has not increased their salaries. Local government workers are threatening to strike, and so many other public servants are extremely paid poor. By the way, if you want to improve the economic welfare of citizens, the issue of ensuring that citizens are paid well, relatively well, would be one of the basic necessities that government would have to undertake if you want to improve the economic welfare of citizens. Our workers are extremely paid poorly. Workers, even in private companies, the situation is very worse. We don't have minimum wage. So that's where we are. And that's why I'm telling you, at the current rate and without some radical reforms, even in the next 10 years, we may not achieve the middle income status. Thank you.
Okay. All right. There you have it. Thank you so much, Moses. It's come the top of the hour. Just 1 minute to allow Council Mushime to give us your parting shots as we wrap it up.
Thank you, Felix. I think for me, my parting shot is for as a country, we need to shift from these statistical measurements that do not capture the economy and economic activities that Ugandans are engaged in. Like I said, we should focus on the quality of the population in terms of access to energy, affordable energy, access to affordable and quality health care, access to education, and also making sure that the government is investing in productive sectors, in value addition, in reducing wastage, devolving resources to the lowest units of government, and most importantly, having a citizenry that will hold these public leaders accountable. That is very, very important. And like Moses has shared, I think countries that have taken a leap forward are countries that have implemented radical reforms that are nationalistic in nature. And that is very, very important. The NLM government has given the base, but to propel this country to another level, it needs another economic model that takes everyone at a center stage. It is one thing to talk about bringing all the people into the monetary economy, but it is the other to see that actually these people are receiving cash, they are working, and their quality of life is improving. Thank you, Felix.
Okay, let's continue with this conversation on our social media platforms. We've come to the tail end of it. We were discussing Uganda's middle income status. Are we there or not? And with me, I had Moses Mulondo, who is the president of Uganda, Uganda Parliamentary Press Association, and he's also an economist. And also with me, I had a counsel and an economist, Moses Mushime, who has over 15 years in public policy, design in global health, leadership, and civic engagement with me. And till next time, bye-bye, take care, stay blessed.